There was a beige hair tie looped around my truck's gear shift. Marilee hasn't sat in that truck in 3 weeks. She says the seats are too scratchy and that it smells like radiator fluid and unresolved trauma. Her words. So whose hair tie was that? I didn't say anything at first. Just stared at it. Beige elastic, a couple dark strands caught in the loop. Looked freshly used. I don't know why, but my hands got clammy. I wasn't even mad. I was confused. Scared, maybe. The way a dog stares at a vacuum cleaner. It doesn't understand the danger, but it knows something's not right. When I walked back into the house, she was on the couch, laughing at something on her phone. Real laughter. The kind I hadn't heard in weeks. Her thumb flicked up the screen so fast when I walked in, you'd think she was defusing a bomb. What's funny? I asked. She blinked. Just a tick-tock. Can I see? Pause. Longer pause. Then she smiled like I was a toddler asking why the sky was blue. It's dumb. You wouldn't get it. I nodded. I nod a lot lately. Didn't mention the hair tie. Not yet. That night, I watched her sleep with both arms tucked under the pillow like a child. Peaceful. Dreaming of something, or someone, else. I went back to the garage and pulled out the box I swore I'd never touch again, where I kept all the things I hoped I'd never need. An old bank envelope of emergency cash. My dad's pocket knife. The lease to my brother's spare apartment. My wedding ring box, empty. I wasn't packing yet, but I was close. The next morning, I smelled her before I saw her. It hit me like a flashback. Something floral. Not the cheap body spray she used to spritz on her way out the door. No, this was calculated. Subtle but expensive. I couldn't place the brand, but I knew the intention. That scent wasn't for me. I've been sitting at the same dining table in the same gray t-shirt for 3 days, surviving on leftover chili and regret. She hadn't so much as brushed my arm in weeks. And now she smelled like a hotel hallway in a movie I wasn't invited to. She walked past me holding a smoothie she definitely didn't make in our blender. It was in a clear cup, lid sealed, with a fancy paper straw. I didn't ask. I just stared at the logo. Some boutique juice place across town. The kind that writes your name in cursive with a heart. I watched her sit on the couch, cross her legs, and scroll like nothing in the universe was wrong. So I tried. I tried to make it normal. I asked, "You heading to work?" "Nope," she said, popping the P like it was a gunshot. "Personal day. Gonna catch up on some stuff." "Cool," I mumbled, as I opened my laptop and pretended to check my bank account for the 4th time that morning. I wasn't looking at numbers. I was checking dates. Timestamps. Transfers. Just in case. She left around noon, said she was going to run errands. I waited 5 minutes, then got into my truck. The beige hair tie was still there. It sat like an accusation on the gear shift. I didn't move it. I started the engine and did something I'm ashamed to admit. I followed her. Don't judge me. When a man has more questions than answers, and every gut feeling is screaming, "You're not crazy, you're just finally seeing it," he stops caring about pride. Or logic. Or dignity. She didn't go to Target like she said. She didn't go to the post office either. She went downtown. Parked in front of a place I didn't recognize. It wasn't a restaurant or a store. Just a black door between 2 brick buildings with no sign. Just a keypad and a buzzer. She stood there for a moment, checking her phone. Then, without looking up, she smiled and buzzed in. The door opened, and I swear I saw a hand, a man's hand, reach out and pull her inside. I waited. 30 minutes. 40. I felt sick. Not just in the stomach. I felt it in my teeth. My bones. I was about to leave when a text came in from her. It said, "Don't forget we have dinner with Helen and Rick at 7. Please wear something ironed." I stared at the message. No explanation for where she was. No reason for the perfume. No mention of Laszlo. Just instructions. Like I was still her husband, still useful, still in the script. I didn't reply. I just drove home with that damn hair tie reflecting in the sun like a noose. I sat in the driveway for an hour, engine off, watching our living room window like it might confess something. Later that evening, I did as she asked. I wore something ironed. I smiled at Helen and Rick. I nodded at stories I wasn't listening to. I laughed in all the wrong places. Because that's what you do when your world is collapsing and no one knows but you. You act. You pretend. You survive the scene. And when we got home, she kissed me on the cheek like she used to. But softer. Colder. Like a memory fading in real time. And for the first time in my life, I realized. She was already gone. 2 days later, I heard his voice. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. It was faint, muffled, really, like sound traveling through drywall and guilt. I had come home early from work, something I never do. Marilee didn't expect me back until 6. She always left the front window cracked to let the house breathe, and as I stepped up onto the porch, I caught a sound. Low, male, teasing. I froze mid-step, keys in hand. That kind of freeze that lives between adrenaline and denial. Then I heard her laugh. Not her polite, distant laugh. The real one. The one I hadn't heard directed at me since last Thanksgiving. I didn't walk in. I didn't storm the place or kick the door down like a bad movie husband. No. I went around back, heart thudding so hard it felt like it was trying to escape through my ribs. I opened the side gate quietly, shoes on the grass to muffle the sound. The patio door was slightly open, the blinds drawn but not fully shut. And there they were. Not touching, not kissing, just sitting on opposite sides of the couch, talking like they'd done it 1,000 times. Comfortable. Familiar. His shoes were off. His hand rested on the couch cushion a little too close to hers. She had that look, the soft one, where her eyes squint ever so slightly, and she tilts her head just a bit to the left. I used to think she only did that with me. I wanted to throw up, or cry, or scream, but I didn't. I just stood there and watched like I was outside my own life, like the moment wasn't mine to interrupt anymore. He got up to use the bathroom. That's when I slipped back around, unlocked the front door, and walked in like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't just watched the slow erosion of my marriage in real time. She turned, startled. Babe, you're home early. I just looked at her. She stood up fast, smoothing her shirt like guilt was something you could iron out. This is Laszlo. From the co-op, remember? We're just going over some volunteer schedules. He emerged from the hallway at that exact moment, his expression unreadable. Laszlo. The name that had been rotting in my brain for weeks finally had a face. Mid-30s, stylish in that I make my own almond milk kind of way. Thin mustache. Wire-rimmed glasses. Clean fingernails. I shook his hand. It was warm. Too warm. You from around here? I asked, voice dry as bone. He smiled. Just moved back actually. Lived in Santa Fe the past few years. Of course he did. Cool. I said, like I wasn't calculating how long it would take to make him disappear off the face of the earth. Well, I don't want to interrupt your calendar plans. Marilee gave me a look I couldn't read. It wasn't fear or guilt. It was something worse, confidence. She wasn't worried about being caught. She didn't even think she'd done anything wrong. Laszlo left 20 minutes later. No handshake this time. Just a nod, like we both understood something we weren't going to say out loud. When the door closed, I didn't ask anything. I went to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at the light like it held the answers. Marilee hovered in the hallway. You believe me, right? She asked. And that's when it happened. I laughed. Not a real laugh. A cracked, fractured sound that didn't belong in my throat. Sure, I said. Just two friends planning compost pickups on the couch. She crossed her arms. You're being dramatic. I walked in on another man in our house, Marilee. He's just a friend. And I'm just your husband, I said, shutting the fridge. So why does it feel like I'm the one intruding? She didn't answer. She walked off like the conversation wasn't worth finishing. Like my pain was a tedious chore she didn't sign up for. I stood there, hands gripping the countertop so hard my knuckles turned white. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. She didn't ask why. And outside, the wind chimes rang again. Not loudly, just enough to remind me the world was still turning, even if mine had stopped. 3 days passed. We barely spoke. She left early every morning and came back smelling like places I didn't recognize, sometimes citrus, sometimes sandalwood, once like fresh paint. She claimed she was busy at the co-op. They were doing some urban revitalization thing on the east side. Lots of soil and scaffolding. She said with a laugh I couldn't return. I kept my replies short. Safe. Non-accusatory. But inside, I was spiraling. Walking around the house like a ghost with unfinished business. Then it happened. She left in a rush, coffee in one hand, earbuds tangled in the other, and forgot to close her laptop. It sat glowing on the dining table. Screen on. No password prompt. I didn't plan to check it. I didn't even touch it at first. But I couldn't not look. Curiosity doesn't kill the cat. It keeps it alive just long enough to realize it's been living in a trap. The browser was open. Gmail. Her inbox. Nothing incriminating at first. Just work emails, grant deadlines, updates from some board meeting. But then I saw a folder titled Miscellaneous. It was the only one with an unread email count, too. I clicked. Inside were 7 email threads. 6 were normal, but one was labeled Weekend Details Smirking Face. My stomach dropped. It was a back and forth between her and Laszlo. The subject line had started tame, Sunday, but quickly spiraled. The body of the email was like a twisted itinerary. Check-in is 4 p.m., but I told them we'd be early, winking face. The place has that big copper tub you love. I'll bring the wine. You bring the playlist. And maybe that navy shirt that makes you look dangerous. There was an attachment. A PDF titled Catalina Cabin Receipt. PDF. They had booked a cabin together. For this weekend. She had told me she was going to her cousin's trauma-informed art therapy retreat. She even left a pamphlet on the counter. Turns out she printed it from Google Images. I found the same flyer online in 15 seconds. It was fake. It was all fake. That was the moment something in me snapped. Not violently. Quietly. Like a switch being turned off. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call her or confront her. I just sat down and stared at that email, reading it over and over, until the words lost shape and the screen dimmed from inactivity. I got up, poured a glass of water, spilled half of it. My hands were shaking so bad it looked like a seizure. And then I did something I never thought I would do. I replied. Not to her. To him. I typed from her account, short and simple. Hey, can we push the cabin trip? Feeling paranoid. Think Erwin's getting suspicious. We'll explain later. Then I hit send. Sat back. Waited. 10 minutes passed. Then came the reply. No problem, babe. You okay? Want me to come by tonight? My heart thudded so hard I felt it in my jaw. I didn't answer. I closed the laptop, careful to leave everything as I'd found it. Then I walked outside and stared at the truck. The hair tie was still there, a little more frayed now. I sat behind the wheel, gripping it like I could steer my way out of this nightmare. Later that evening, Marilee came home with Thai food. My favorite. She set the bags on the counter like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't been planning a weekend of wine and lies. You okay? She asked, brushing hair out of her face. You look pale. Just tired, I said. Didn't sleep great. She gave me a soft look. You've been working too hard lately. I nodded. Yeah, something like that. That night, we ate spring rolls and pad CEW while she told me a story about her boss getting locked out of their office building. I nodded in the right places. Smiled when it seemed expected. Inside, I was already gone. There's a kind of madness that doesn't feel like screaming or punching walls. It feels like precision. Like you're walking on glass barefoot, calculating every step. That's where I was now. Not angry. Not yelling. Just observant. Quiet. Dangerous. In the way that people who've stopped begging are dangerous. I started running small experiments. Just to see. I'd leave things slightly out of place. Her favorite hoodie, folded and tucked into the hall closet instead of draped on the couch, where she usually left it. I watched to see if she'd notice. She didn't. I moved her journal from her nightstand drawer to her tote bag. Nothing. I started counting wine bottles in the recycling bin. One night, there were 3. Only 2 of us in the house, and I hadn't had a sip in days. Then I did something risky. I installed a second dash cam in my truck. One she wouldn't notice, wedged deep under the glove box, wired separately. I had a hunch, a theory, and I wanted to know if her little errands involved my vehicle when I wasn't around. The following Thursday, I told her I'd be in Denver overnight for a work seminar. There was no seminar. I parked 2 blocks away and waited. The truck left the driveway at 11:42 a.m. The footage showed her driving it. Alone at first. Then, 15 minutes in, Laszlo got in. Passenger seat. He leaned over and kissed her cheek. She laughed, an open-mouthed, head-tilted laugh I hadn't seen in months. They drove for another 20 minutes before parking outside a strip of Midtown art galleries. One of them, I later confirmed, was hosting a sustainable sculpture workshop. Of course it was. They didn't go inside right away. They sat in the truck, talking, then quiet. Then his hand reached over, touched her face, then her neck. She didn't stop him. The footage didn't show everything, but it showed enough. Her eyes closed. His lips moved to her shoulder. My truck. My seat. My wife. I turned off the footage. I sat alone in that parked rental sedan for an hour, just staring out the windshield at nothing. Have you ever cried so hard your teeth hurt? I did. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just silently. So hard my jaw locked. So hard my vision blurred, and I thought I might pass out. When I finally started the car, it was almost dark. I drove home, parked in the garage, and deleted the footage from the backup copy I'd made on the cloud. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Because now it wasn't about catching her. I'd done that. Now it was about understanding the shape of the lie, how deep it went, how long it had lived under my roof, fed by my trust. That night, she made popcorn and put on a documentary about bird migration. I sat beside her on the couch, our knees almost touching. She leaned her head against my shoulder halfway through. I didn't move. When she finally went to bed, I stayed up. Not watching TV, not reading, just listening to the wind chimes outside and wondering how long someone can pretend not to be broken before the cracks start making noise. It happened on a Tuesday, around 3:17 p.m. That's how specific I remember it. Because everything in my life now exists in sharp timestamps, like I'm documenting a crime scene no one else can see. She had left her phone on the kitchen counter, screen up, unlocked, as she took a work call outside in the backyard. She never used to take calls outside. Not until recently. I guess walls started to feel like witnesses. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't have to. The screen lit up on its own with a new notification. Signal. New message from low leaf fluttering inwind. I stared at it like it was radioactive. Low. The emoji. Casual. Intimate. Like a nickname carved into a tree. I don't use Signal. We've both had iPhones since we met. No need for private encrypted messaging, unless you have something worth encrypting. The message preview was partial, cut off just enough to feel like a blade half buried in my ribs. Still thinking about Sunday morning. Your legs, the sun on your. The screen dimmed. And for a few seconds, I swear I forgot how to breathe. Not because I didn't expect it. At this point, I knew. But there's a difference between suspecting the knife is in your back and watching someone twist it while they smile. The specificity, the rawness, that wasn't just emotional cheating. That wasn't poetry or longing or what-ifs. That was confirmation. I walked upstairs like I was underwater. Every step felt unreal. The house was so quiet I could hear the ticking of the analog clock in the hallway. A gift from our wedding registry that now sounded like a countdown. I opened our bedroom closet and stared at her side. The clothes. The neat rows of boots. That one coral scarf she never wore, but insisted on keeping for statement days. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Like a hotel room that resets after every betrayal. I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out her nightstand drawer. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I just needed a direction for my rage to go. That's when I saw it. An old notebook. Black leather cover, half-torn corner. It wasn't hidden, not exactly. Just buried under some receipts and an unopened mascara. I opened it. The first few pages were to-do lists. Errands. Grocery reminders. Then somewhere in the middle, the tone changed. It wasn't a journal, not really. More like freeform ramblings. Thoughts. Scraps of internal monologue. But one entry caught me. The guilt comes in waves. But not because I miss him. Because I don't. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Reread it at least 10 times. Each word dug a little deeper. Not because I miss him. Because I don't. There it was. My obituary, written in lowercase pen on a Thursday. I didn't flip to the next page. I closed the notebook. Put it back exactly how I found it. Then I went downstairs, poured myself a glass of water, and stood in the kitchen as she walked back in from outside. She kissed my cheek. Light. Distant. Just enough to maintain the illusion. Want to do pasta tonight? She asked. Sure, I said. Red or white sauce? She paused. Surprised me. I did. I made red. Her least favorite. She didn't say a word about it. She just ate it in silence, chewing betrayal like it was rigatoni. After dinner, I did the dishes. She scrolled through her phone beside me, laughing every few minutes. I didn't ask why. I already knew. It wasn't me she was laughing with. It hadn't been for months. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat in the living room, lights off, wind chimes clicking gently in the dark outside. I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. Just waiting for the moment when pretending to be married would feel more absurd than actually leaving. And I had a feeling. That moment was coming soon. She was asleep when I decided I was done. Not done, in the dramatic sense. I didn't flip a table. I didn't scream, that's it, like some made-for-TV breakup. No, it was quieter than that. It felt more like a light switch finally giving up after flickering for weeks. The bulb doesn't pop. It just fades out. That was me. I stood at the edge of our bed, watching her breathe. Her mouth was slightly open, left leg tangled in the sheet, one arm hanging off the mattress. She always slept like she owned the bed, like her body needed to occupy more space than her soul ever gave me when she was awake. And I looked at her the way I imagine a detective looks at the suspect who just confessed, not with rage, but with relief. Like, so that's what this was. All this time. That's who you are. She looked peaceful. Of course she did. It's always easier for the one who's already left in their head. I walked quietly to the closet and opened the old green suitcase. The one we'd taken on our road trip to Michigan 5 summers ago. The one she spilled chili on in Wisconsin. I started packing, not everything, just what I'd need to disappear slowly. Just enough to make my absence feel like a slow leak rather than an explosion. But I wasn't leaving yet. Not without the truth. Not without giving her the chance to lie to my face one last time. The next morning, I made her breakfast. Blueberry pancakes. She walked into the kitchen rubbing her eyes, wearing one of my old t-shirts like she still had the right. She smiled, surprised. Wow, pancakes? Felt like a good morning for them, I said. Sit down. She did. I poured her coffee. I sat across from her. I waited until she had buttered one of the pancakes and taken 2 bites before I spoke. Tell me about Catalina. She froze, fork in midair. Her smile didn't drop immediately. It hung there like a weak branch, then crumbled. What? The cabin, I said. The copper tub. The wine. The playlist. Sunday morning. Your legs. The sun. That signal message. Should I go on? She blinked. Swallowed. Said nothing. I've seen everything. I said, my voice calm but heavy. Emails. Messages. The fake pamphlet. The trip. The truck footage. The camera under the dash. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed, then opened again. You went through I gave you years, I said, cutting her off. I gave you loyalty, so blind it was a disability. I gave you forgiveness before you ever asked for it. And all you had to do was tell the truth. I didn't sleep with him, she said. Too fast. Too rehearsed. I tilted my head. Is that really the part you think I care about now? She stared at me. Her face didn't show remorse. It showed fear, not of hurting me, but of losing control of the narrative. You left me a long time ago, I said. You just forgot to tell me. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, jaw tight. So what now? You want me to beg? To cry? To say I'm sorry for things I never meant to hurt you with? No, I said. I just wanted to see if you'd still lie. And you did. Silence. Heavy. Like all the air had thickened. She finally spoke. You don't understand what it's like to feel invisible. That line. I don't, I said, laughing once. Dry. Hollow. I've been invisible in this house for a year. You started turning away from me before Laszlo ever touched your hand. You think cheating starts with bodies? It starts with secrets. It starts with phones turned face down and inside jokes that don't belong to the person you sleep beside. She pushed the plate away. I can't do this. You already did. I stood up. I walked out of the kitchen. And I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't even pack anything else. I just grabbed the suitcase I'd already prepared and stepped outside. The wind chimes greeted me like they always do. Soft. Thoughtless. Indifferent. Just like her. The door clicked shut behind me. And for the first time in over a year, I didn't feel the need to check if it locked. I didn't look back. Didn't wait to hear her footsteps. Or hope she'd chase me down the porch in a last-second change of heart. That wasn't who we were anymore. Maybe it never had been. I walked to the truck, threw the green suitcase in the back seat, sat in the driver's seat, and just breathed. It was quiet. No chimes. No excuses. No sounds from the house. Just the hum of my own pulse, finally slowing. I didn't know where I was going. I had no grand escape plan. But I had a full tank, a weekend bag, and something that had been missing from my life for a long time. A sense that I could choose what happens next. I drove for hours. No music. Just road. The sky was a soft gray, not gloomy, but honest. Like even the weather had stopped pretending everything was fine. I passed a few towns. Ate gas station trail mix for dinner. Booked a cheap motel under a name that wasn't mine, just to see what it felt like to be someone else. Turns out, it felt clean. The next morning, I found myself near a lake I didn't know the name of. No one around. Just a picnic bench, a foggy shoreline, and birds arguing in the distance. I sat there for what felt like forever, not thinking, not grieving, just being. And in that stillness, it hit me. She didn't destroy me. She released me. I had bent myself into shapes no man should ever become just to hold on to something that had let go of me long ago. I had accepted half versions of love, convinced they were better than none. But out there, in that quiet place where no one knew my name or history, I realized that survival isn't the same as living. And I was done surviving her. I started reading books again. I got a small place near my brother's in a town where the grocery clerk knows my name. I bought a bicycle. Started learning how to cook things that didn't involve microwave instructions. I even adopted a dog, a mutt named Fig. She follows me around like I'm the sun. And sometimes, on long walks, I think about Merrily. Not with anger, not with pain, but with distance. Like a song I used to love before I understood what the lyrics really meant. She sent one email a month after I left. Short, no apology. Just, hope you're doing okay. I didn't respond. Not out of pettiness. Out of peace. Because I was okay. Better than okay. I was finally whole. Not because someone put me back together, but because I stopped handing them the pieces in the first place.